Envision parting a city into two totally different parts. Streets that used to associate are currently impasses. Your work on the opposite side of the city blocked off, and the neighbor across the road that you used to see day to day, you will maybe never address him from now on. The Berlin Wall did precisely that, isolating East and West for just about 30 years. For this video, I've vivified the different advancement phases of the wall to grasp the plan of this remarkable piece of engineering. This is the manner by which the Berlin Wall worked. Living in Berlin before the wall was fabricated was a weird life. You could move around the whole city openly, yet you were either an East Berliner or a West Berliner. After World War II, the triumphant countries had separated the German city into a few sections. The Soviet occupation zone at last turned into the domain of East Germany, a communist state, and the western piece of Berlin remained lawfully involved. Be that as it may, in all reasonableness, it had a place with West Germany, an entrepreneur state. Communism and free enterprise, two unique countries and, surprisingly, two distinct monetary forms, isolated simply by roads. Trains interfacing the various pieces of the city would make declarations. Next station, last stop in the Eastern Zone. Many individuals lived in one area of the city, yet worked in the other. East Berliners took occupations in the West to profit from the more grounded cash, while West Berliners got their hairstyles in the East at costs that were a lot less expensive to them. What's more, as it were, the two frameworks attempted to outshine the other. In West Berlin, a large number of saves up on the Kurfürstendamm Road, shop windows loaded up with the most recent brand name results of Western purchaser culture, while only a couple of roads away in East Berlin, there was Stalinale, a road that was changed into a lane brimming with structures in the style of socialist classicism. Be that as it may, this open concurrence of two frameworks wouldn't keep going long. On the 13th of August 1961, Berlin awakened to an isolated city. The East German government shut the boundary, and that implies that families were separated. However authoritatively expressing that this was important to safeguard their country, it was a work to prevent their own residents from escaping toward the West, where open doors, wages, and opportunity appeared to be more prominent. Toward the beginning, this was only a wall in name. It generally comprised of walls and free bits of spiked metal, monitored by watches. There were some unguarded stretches, and it was even conceivable to bounce across. To make getting away from more troublesome, development quickly started on a more long-lasting wall, made from concrete and finished off with security fencing loop around a rye-formed metal arm. Yet this isn't the way the wall looked all over the place. The deficiency of building materials truly intended that in the principal years, only 10% of the line was assembled this way. What's more, there was another issue. Once in a while the line among West and East Berlin went straight through lodging blocks. Houses that presently needed to turn out to be important for the wall. The East German specialists constrained individuals out of their homes and filled the windows with blocks. At times, notwithstanding, they would fail to remember a window. On August 17, 1962, Peter Fechter finds one such house making up piece of the wall. Peter is baffled with the East German government, as they won't allow him to see his sister that lives on the opposite side of the wall. Along with his associate Helmut, he fantasizes about a departure toward the west. Both of them see individuals inside the house, and altogether not to be seen, they remove their shoes and unobtrusively creep in. By sheer karma, they rapidly track down the open window. What's more, from here, they have an unmistakable perspective making a course for opportunity. A wall, then an unmistakable strip, lastly a wall. It appears to be feasible, aside from the way that they are on display of the close-by line monitors. Unexpectedly, they hear voices behind them. Furthermore, it is presently or never. Peter and Helmut leap through the window and climb the main wall. Then they're spotted, and promptly the watchmen open fire. Helmut runs across the strip through a cloudiness of projectiles. As he scales the wall, he thinks back and he sees his companion, Peter, frozen completely still. The gatekeepers are shouting in enthusiasm, and they will have an unmistakable shot soon. Helmut shouts, and Peter at long last gets a move on. He makes it across the strip. However, as he hops up to scale the wall, he is hit midair and ruts down. Helmut can't help his companion. A whole 50 minutes passes as a horde of spectators assembles to see Peter lying on the ground, gradually kicking the bucket at the foundation of the wall. Awful stories, as Vector Peters, were generally canvassed in the West. In any case, for the East German specialists, the main example learned was to build the wall. Throughout the span of many years, the wall is consistently upgraded with increasingly expanding security highlights. What used to be a solitary wall before long turned into a merciless boundary strip, cutting the city endlessly further separated. As upgrades to the wall were made, getaway from endeavors moved to new strategies, and the wall would be extended once more, a volatile that was rehashed until the last form of the wall was constructed, the variant of the wall that became well known. From 1975 on, the East German specialists carried out this rendition of the wall, a line basically unimaginable for anybody to cross. Furthermore, this is the manner by which it by and large worked. Coming from the east, just the visual obstruction made of substantial pieces should be visible. This was done with the goal that the specific line fortresses are not apparent, as this information could be utilized to design getaway from endeavors. Simply behind this hindrance, the ground is shrouded in purported Stalin's grass. These are mats made of steel needles that would penetrate the foot of anybody attempting to hop across. Next up is a transmission wall comprising of security fencing extended over substantial posts. Anybody attempting to scale this wall would rapidly press the wires together, setting off a caution and telling the gatekeepers in a close-by lookout. Lookouts were monitored day in and day out by 2 to 5 warriors. These warriors had a reasonable perspective overall boundary with orders to shoot anybody immediately. Attempting to utilize savage power to break these segments wouldn't work either, as behind the sign wall are a few lines of tank traps, barring anybody from passing through with a vehicle. In this boundary zone is a way for troopers to watch the region, periodically joined by canines. Furthermore, behind this is the purported passing strip, a stroke of soil extending for a significant distance toward each path, in full sight of the watchman towers. Stowing away is inconceivable. Furthermore, assuming anybody some way or another made it past here, they arrive at a section that is effectively conspicuous, the wall confronting the western side. As opposed to the old wall, these components had a foot-molded base, which implied that no openings in the ground were required for their development. And on second thought of spiked metal on top, there were presently pipes made of asbestos concrete. These lines gave dependability to the wall components, and the East German specialists likewise trusted that they would diminish the jail camp sensation of the past wall. However, this was by all accounts not the only justification behind the change. The new concrete utilized was incredibly smooth, with nothing to get a handle onto. One thing the specialists didn't consider, nonetheless, is that this perfection made the wall an obvious objective for spray painting from the western side. Spray painting that would overwhelm a considerable lot of the 45,000 components that were set in Berlin. Works of art that would frequently taunt the East German government brought about an open exhibition of sorts, featuring the brutal contrast between life in the West, where free creative articulation was conceivable, and life in the East, where this was unfathomable. Precise quantities of casualties from this wall are questioned, and it is that thing right up till now is being explored. Yet, throughout the long term, it was numerous who, very much like Peter Fechter, were expecting a. Yet, the Berlin Wall was just a little piece of the division of Germany. Notwithstanding Berlin, The entire nation was likewise partitioned into two sections. Furthermore, certain individuals made trying endeavors, putting their lives in danger to attempt to get to opportunity. For instance, the two companions Gunther Wetzel and Peter Strelzig, who needed to construct a superior life for themselves in the West. Also, in the wake of running over an article about sightseeing balloons, a crazy arrangement was conceived. The two chose to construct their own hand-crafted sightseeing balloon to get away from across the boundary. After everything is sewn together, the burner is begun and the inflatable takes off. However, at that point, following removing, a colossal opening is torn in the highest point of the inflatable, and they could collide with the ground from north of 6,000 feet. I made a total video about this breathtaking inflatable break with a portion of my most intricate liveliness and delineations. Also, I had the option to talk with Gunther for this venture, who let me know how the thinking about getting away from Endeavor went. That is the reason I mean a lot to attempt to comprehend. I don't know whether I will discuss it. This narrative is essential for my continuous Cloud Unique series under openness, in which I make higher financial plan creations. For example, my video about the container-loaded assault, with definite live Linus investigating how the strike unfurled. Or, on the other hand, my video about the Tenerife debacle, the most exceedingly terrible flying mishap that always occurred. Recordings that are not made for the YouTube algorithm, but unrushed narrating.